And go ahead and call the roll.
Flournoy.
Here.
Anderson.
Yes.
Rowe. Ham.
Here?
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
And two.
And Two Hill?
I'm watching.
Okay. We'll get him when he comes in. Okay, do we have any changes to the agenda, council? Anybody have a change? Okay. Now, I just want to point a couple things out. And I'll mention this again towards the end of the mayor's report, but right after our adjournment, we're actually going to swear in our elected officials a little bit early. We normally wait till January to do this, but we're going to do it tonight after the adjournment of this meeting. So we'll have the camera rolling, and we will also swear in the chief of police and city attorney. And then afterwards, there's a little party with cake for Martha and Katie back there. So feel free to stay and come join us in the back, because this is their last meeting. So thank you guys for, again, all your service. But we'll get to that again. Okay, so let's go to the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of the November 27th, 2023 council meeting. Approval of the December 8th, 2023 payroll in the amount of $193,107.50. Approval of general obligation debt in the amount of $67,207. Approval of ACH payment to the Department of Revenue for $20,647.48. Acceptance of the Beautification Commission minutes. Acceptance of the library board minutes from October 16th and November 20th of 2023. Acceptance of the Volunteer City Committee minutes. Acceptance of the Carnegie Museum Board minutes. Acceptance of the Nady Land Committee minutes. Acceptance of the Property Committee minutes from October 23rd, November 27th, and December 11th of 2023. Approval of liquor licenses for Flamingo Lanes and Revive Entertainment, LLC. Approval of special claims in the amount of $3,432.74. Approval of total claims in the amount of $2,710,529.33. We have 5 claims over $75,000. Iowa Civil Contracting, this is for services rendered for $446,676.72. Carl Chevrolet for squad cars in the amount of $81,462. Southeast Iowa Small Cities and Counties for $76,303.44. This is insurance premiums. Wicks Construction for Highway 1, $563,434.49. And Woodruff Construction for Step 3 of $902,961.24.
Mayor, I don't know if you included property committee minutes. in your listing.
I thought I did, because I read
You
those
did?
3 dates.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Maybe I didn't say property. Maybe I said something else. I don't know. We'll have to check the tape.
Anyways.
Should have been property minutes,
Okay.
property committee minutes for 3 different times, October, November, and December. So I apologize if I didn't say that right.
I think I move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Yeah, and then moved by Gandy, second by Rasmussen. Any discussion?
I have a question. The general obligation amount of $67,207, what's that for?
The general obligation debt. So that is there's a 2015 rec center pool project that there's still its interest. And then there is what they call they call it the negative fund balance.
Well, this is one we talked about earlier.
Yes, it is.
Okay, you better explain it to everybody.
So apparently, back in 2016, it's 2016 BGO bond debt that we had overspent, and we are paying off that debt over time, and it will be paid off in 2025. I was not here when that happened, so I don't know all of the details,
Right.
but there are some.
How do you overspend a bond debt?
From my understanding, at one time they had collapsed all of the debts into one, and And
Oh, back in those days.
yes,
Okay,
Yeah, they were carrying some negative balances. And
yeah,
right,
They brought all those,
and we are not
care of
allowed to
everything.
do that.
right.
yeah.
Okay. Then the only other thing I have to add is I reviewed all the claims and everything appears to be in order. I recommend paying the claims.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions? If not, call the roll.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes, but I need to abstain from the November 27th minutes.
Okay. And Flournoy.
Yes.
Okay, so we will move on to public forum and appearances. The first up is Christine Estle, our public health nurse, and their group has just created and finished a community health assessment. So I asked her to come and give a quick report.
Quick, how fast is quick?
Less than 5 minutes.
Okay, you got it, you got it.
Hit the highlights.
Thank you,
For
Mayor
the
Boyer,
public.
for inviting me to present to you. I'm Chris Estle, I'm the Public Health Director for Jefferson County. For those of you that don't know me, I've been in that role for 16 years, and I've been a nurse for almost 30. So there you have it. So council members have a hard copy of the Community Health Assessment, Community Health Improvement Plan. From this point forward, we're gonna call it a CHA-CHIP. Those are national acronyms that the Public Health Service goes by. So for those of you that don't know, every 5 years, local health departments by Iowa code are required to perform a community health assessment, health improvement plan. We got a little buy a few years ago from this little thing called the pandemic. So we've been working on this assessment for about 16 months. It was due to the state November 17th. So with that being said, there's no right or wrong way to complete an assessment. There's no directive from the state. It doesn't matter how you do it as long as you get it done. So for the 99 counties, you're going to see 99 different community health assessments, health improvement plans. So for us, I had a couple of masters in public health students I worked with to help with questions. And then I had an undergrad in public health help compile some of this information. So I found it interesting. We had numerous meetings that I'm involved in throughout the county and the community. So we queried those individuals in those already established roles. We had a standard set of questions that we asked, and then we had a community survey that was available and live. And if you couldn't access the internet, then we could get you a hard copy. So if you look at the data point there on is what would be page 3, the survey was very similar to the previous survey that was done, 6 years ago. I was disappointed a little bit with the numbers of people that actually participated in the survey, but looking at the old survey, it was very similar, about 60 individuals. So I'm not going to belabor that. So I find it interesting that the things that were identified as priorities within this assessment were basic needs of all of us as individuals. If you think back to your psychology classes and the hierarchy of needs, we identified, you guys can all read, I'm not going to belabor it, we've identified housing, mental health, substance abuse, access to health care, and poverty. So those were the things that we, as a health department, are bringing forward and focusing on for the community health improvement plan portion. You could end up with a 50 or 60 page document, and really it's not going to serve a purpose because it's not going to be a usable document. So we wanted to make it small and have objectives and action plans to hopefully make an improvement in the next 5 years. So we've already had a meeting that was focused on the mental health and the substance abuse, and there was a few people from this room that were at that meeting. And we identified what is currently working great in our community with those services, mental health and substance abuse, what needs a little boost, what's in place but needs a little help, might need some funding, a little bit more attention to goals and objectives, and then we identified areas to grow, meaning there's a gap, there's not those services in place right now. So we had that meeting on November 29th, and we have some great information. We're sharing that with community partners in ways to hopefully make some things streamlined within our community, and the mayor has a copy of those, that information from that meeting. So with that being said, we have 5 years to hopefully make some improvements in the CHIP, the Community Health Improvement Plan. This is a working document. It's not like it's just going to be sitting on the shelf and we're not going to reference it. I know the city's already done a housing study, which we referenced in this document as well. There's lots of great things within our city and county, but sometimes they're just disconnected and people are doing their own things and they're not necessarily coordinating things and working collaboratively together. And we know that from the pandemic, even pre-pandemic, you're not gonna get any more money and you're not gonna get any more workforce. So we're gonna have to figure out how we can bring those things together and make it better for all of us. So again, this is gonna be live on the county's new website. It'll be under the public health tab. It'll be on the front page of the public health page. I just haven't uploaded it yet. I might need a room service on that. I don't know. I tried to do it today and I couldn't get it to do it quite right, so I might have to reach out to Kevin to help me. So anyway, if you're working with grants, nonprofits, or students, oftentimes they want to know what your most recent community health assessment, health improvement plan done by your health department looks like, or where it's located. So that's what I want you guys to take away tonight. Yes, it's done. Yes, it's been submitted to the state, where it's going to be accessible, and what are some goals and objectives that we're going to work on. So how's that for 5 minutes?
That was good.
Can I answer any questions? There's a ton of work that went into this little document, I'm not gonna lie. So lots and lots of work, with lots of hours of data collection.
You may not have an answer to this question, but what can you do to improve participation in the survey?
You know what, I have thought about that a lot, and we've tried, it's not unique to our county. And I even had my staff complete it and say, okay, act like you're just a member of the community and that you don't know anything about the questions I'm gonna ask you, and see how long it takes you to answer. Sometimes people don't like to take surveys because they think that somebody's watching them and they can be tracked. They don't have the time to do it. They don't think it's important to them, the usual responses. We can't pay somebody to participate. We can't give them an incentive because I don't have that money in my budget. So that's a great question though, Doug. That's something that we're all struggling with, to get more participation. That's why I serve on a lot of different communities or county coalitions or organizations, and I just ask people that are participating because it's a good diverse population gauge, so to speak, with all the community partners that we have. Any
So
other questions?
where are you going here in this first year?
Where
What
are
are
we
you planning
going?
for January and on?
Well, there's lots of different community coalitions going on right now that focus on mental health and substance abuse. We're trying to kind of get everybody on the same page, identify what's currently working well, which we did at that meeting on November 29th, and how we can focus on some ways to make access to mental health and substance abuse services easier and more comprehensive. We can't fix everything, but it doesn't cost anything to talk to other community partners and try to collaborate together. So if somebody calls the office and says, Chris, where can I go for this service? Then I can say, hey, try this place, and try this place. Because we don't want people to go without service, because there are great services already established within our county.
I
Chris,
found,
have you seen this little thing?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Mm-hmm.
I found it interesting, Christine, you said that poverty is the single largest determinant of health,
It is.
according to the World Health Organization.
Yes, if you guys haven't talked or understand what social determinants of health are, I would encourage you to go just Google social determinants of health. And the ones that are bolded in this document are things identified that make a difference and impact your life from the time you're born on through adulthood. So those things are very, very important to understand. So you might hear that verbiage, social determinants of health. And basic needs impact your social health and wellness.
And of course, you mentioned housing as very important.
Yes, it is, absolutely. We have to have shelter. It has to be affordable. I don't know what the definition of that is, because it's all relative based on your salaries, based on your access, based on how far you have to travel to work. All those things come into play. So, especially now, things are tough for a lot of people. Any other questions? I talk really fast, so if you want to know any more, let me know. Give me a call from the health department. I'm happy to
Yeah.
help you.
If you think of questions later,
Yeah,
give Chris a
send it
call.
to me. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Take
Chris.
care. Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it very much.
Chris.
Yes.
Next up is Nahom Abegaze. And Nahom has been our chair of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee.
Good to see everybody. That was great, Christine. I did my undergraduate capstone in social determinants of health, so super passionate about that stuff. I'm gonna be reading off my phone today. All right, so, sorry, it's a little small even for me. Okay. Dear Mayor, City Council, committee members who aren't here right now, stakeholders, community of Fairfield, it's with careful consideration and a commitment to transparency that I present final report for the City of Fairfield's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Over our tenure, we've diligently worked towards fostering a more inclusive and equitable community. Our efforts have been driven by a shared vision of creating a town that values diversity, ensures equal opportunities for all, and actively works against discrimination and bias. In terms of our achievements and progress, throughout our time together, the committee has promoted diversity, equity, and inclusion within Fairfield. We've implemented educational programs, conducted presentations or workshops, and even facilitated open dialogues that have contributed to a greater understanding of the challenges faced by various groups within our community. Some notable achievements include the initiation of the All Our Voices story time at the Fairfield Public Library, proclamation of Pride Month, researching and authoring a statement of intent in 2021 and then defending it in early 2022. Monthly educational components in our committee ranging from topics in Islamophobia to gender and trans activism, critical race theory, cognitive emotional methodology, environmental justice, diversity audits, etc. And even a work session with members of City Council and several of our committee members in April of last year. Here are some challenges and reflections. Despite our accomplishments, it's important to acknowledge the challenges and complexities inherent in our mission. The landscape of diversity, equity, and inclusion is ever evolving, requiring ongoing dedication and adaptability. We have faced obstacles in garnering widespread support, overcoming resistance to change, and ensuring sustained commitment from all sectors of the community, including our own City Council and committee members alike. That's why I'm here today, to make a recommendation for dissolution. So after careful consideration and consultation with some committee members, community stakeholders, and experts in the field, I recommend the dissolution of the City of Fairfield's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. This recommendation is not a reflection of our perceived failure, but rather a strategic decision to reallocate resources and energy towards more effective means of achieving our shared goals. I'm just going to go briefly into the reasons for this dissolution. One of them being integration into existing structures. So as we've made progress, it's become evident that the principles of diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI for short, should be seamlessly integrated into the core functions of existing town structures rather than maintained as a separate committee. And perhaps you feel the same way. Sustainability. Dissolving the committee will encourage sustainable embedding of diversity, equity, and inclusion practices within various town departments, ensuring lasting impact. Finally, adaptability. A more fluid approach wherein diversity and inclusion efforts are adaptive to evolving community needs, which can be more effectively managed within existing town structures. Last, in terms of next steps, in the wake of dissolution, I propose the following next steps. Transition plan. I'm happy to help develop a comprehensive transition plan outlining how the principles of DEI will be seamlessly integrated into existing town departments. And of course, this is a proposal for you to consider. Training and education. A number of us are available, at least I speak for myself, to continue offering a training educational opportunities to town staff and officials to ensure a shared understanding of the importance of diversity and inclusion. And lastly, ongoing assessment. Want to establish mechanisms for ongoing assessment and accountability, ensuring that the town remains committed to the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I express my sincere gratitude to all the committee members who were here, City Council, Mayor, stakeholders, and other committee members who have contributed to the success of our efforts. Our collective commitment to fostering a more inclusive town has laid the foundation for positive change. In conclusion, the dissolution of the City of Fairfield's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee marks the beginning of a new phase in our community's journey toward equality and unity. May we continue to build on the progress we've achieved and strive for a future where diversity is celebrated, equity is a reality, and inclusion is a way of life. Sincerely, Nahom Abegaze. As you might know, I'm the co-chair of the committee and available for any questions should you have any right now. And as I said, this is a recommendation or proposal, so it's up to you what you want to do in the end.
First of all, I just want to thank you and all the committee members, past and present, who have participated. I think there's been a lot of learning
Yep.
for everybody involved, and I appreciate the fact that all those people that have been involved are more educated and can be more effective in their communication and in their own lives, in their own jobs, and how they interact with the community. And for the council, I think this is something to, we can go one of three ways. We can vote to dissolve the committee more formally. We can table it for a while and let it sink in. and think about how it could be recreated with, you know, a couple recommendations. And also rethinking of what the original intent was too, and how to bring that back into focus. You know, it originally started out as the multicultural committee, thinking of the, you know, again, that we have a diverse community and how to bring people together. So there's several ways we could move forward, and maybe it's just time for a reflection. And but I'll leave it up to, you know, your thoughts, if anybody has any thoughts and questions at this point.
So, Nahom, you said you'd spoken with some committee members?
Correct.
I'm not asking for names, but how many committee members do you have currently?
Last count was probably around 9 to 11. Admittedly, I was on a contract out of state for 4 months from late April through late August, at which point I had passed some of my responsibilities on, and I understand that some of that disintegration happened in my absence, and that was part of what I took into account. So I could say there were, on paper, probably 9 committee members. As far as active, I can't comment.
And when was the last time there was a meeting?
Last time there was a meeting would have probably been in May. I wasn't at that meeting, but I believe, based on the records, that's the last time there was a meeting. In June, the committee voted to take a recess for summer, and then had a really hard time coming back together this fall. Admittedly, again, I was absent, and I was at the helm of the thing, but I had a lot to catch up on when I came back as well. And I tried a number of times to get together with the committee, and I had sensed before I had left that something like this might happen. So I think it's natural. I don't feel discouraged in any way. I also, you know, I'm excited for what's next, whatever y'all decide you want to do. And I don't plan on leaving anytime soon. So in the event that you want to keep working with someone like me, that can be arranged.
And I think committee members also are open for more dialogue,
Yeah.
you know, and want to be helpful if they can in the future.
Right.
So, any thoughts?
Yeah. Another question. Do you have any sense? I know I listened to your letter. Do you have any sense of why? It seems to me, from what you're describing it,
Sure.
the committee lost sort of motivation, lost steam, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, we had some really strong leadership at the time that I joined. Our co-chairs at the time were Motia Haskins and Adrian Logston. I'm sorry if I'm saying her last name incorrectly. Both of them decided to move on at separate times. Mo decided to focus more on his academic pursuits, or really he was getting a promotion at University of Iowa. Adrian moved to St. Paul. I stepped in the role of co-chair, and I think for a few months it really felt like there was a lot of pulling, and it's just not a sustainable. I didn't have a sustainable outlook, and I think that even in the beginning, and you know, Mayor Boyer can comment here, that the world of DEI is pretty large, and despite all the sort of different connotations, it's hard to know where a committee like that should take it. There are many different ideas and many different drivers, and so I think what was difficult was probably a lack of cohesion or coherence among the group about what were we fighting for, who are we fighting for, where are we going, and how do we plan on getting there. And I take responsibility as the co-chair to not have a pretty clear vision for where the committee could have gone together. And so I think that had something to do with it. I think everyone was also very busy in their other pursuits, you know, full-time jobs, what have you. This is a volunteer role after all. I was the only person who was technically compensated for my time running the committee because I was hired by MIU to do DEI functions. So it was an extension of that for me to participate in the committee. So I don't know if that answers the questions. Part of my answer is a little bit like Christine's, like we're still trying to figure it out. But yeah, I feel like this is a good step.
What happened to the DEI at the university?
University had some tough financial times that at the turn of last year, and so in the face of a deficit, we scaled back some of our own DEI efforts. And now I think we're just reimagining how we want to do DEI. We have some new leadership in place. You know, I don't know if Lucy wants to say anything to this, but I'm hopeful. I would do DEI work whether or not it was labeled DEI, but I think that DEI has been particularly political and politicized, and I know we've seen that even among our own city council. And so I don't know, but I'm excited. I'm open, and I hope to have more strategic conversations with the new leadership about what DEI could look like in the next year and the next few years at the university.
And it may be called something else, like you say.
Sure.
You know?
Maybe called something else. Yeah.
So does anybody have a strong feeling one way or the other? Doug? Can tell you want to say something,
My
but you're
gut
not.
reaction is to refer this to the Personnel Committee for further consideration.
Okay. Okay. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second to move it to personnel. Any other discussion? Questions?
Yeah, my further comment, I don't want to ask you more questions, thank
Oh.
you, Nahom, but I just
Yeah.
think, yeah, just maybe the group, the team, the members, there's not, like you say, there's not a spark there, not the motivation to continue in this form, but it might be something that upon in discussion with committee and maybe before the council, maybe some reconfiguration or reset
Yeah.
with maybe different, with goals that actually can have support.
Yeah.
And a vision that actually has support from the community and from the council. And, but I think the intent was worthwhile, but for whatever reason, the drive behind it wasn't strong, didn't stay strong for very long. So yeah, I think it makes sense
Yeah.
to go forward to the personnel committee and have it.
Yeah, and
further
I'm available
considered.
for further questions. I appreciate your questions and commentary. And I'm available for tea or a meal, anything like that, if you want to have a more in-depth conversation about what might have happened or what we could do differently.
I mean, if we look back on the last 4 years, you know,
Yeah.
COVID didn't help us, right? Through
Yeah.
that period.
And if we also think about initially when the committee started, right, it was a very racially charged time with the George Floyd incidents. I know that MIU had a reaction to that, and DEI efforts there were started formally as a response to that or reaction to that. I suspect that at the city level too, there was a little bit of demand there. I'm not saying that is the only reason, but certainly sometimes that sort of energy can dry out or people can shift focus. Again, it's a large domain, many topics. A lot of the things that Christine talked about technically fall under DEI. So it's, there's just a lot we can do yet.
Great. Okay, so with the motion and a second to move it to personnel, any other questions or comments?
I just think you took a really difficult topic and situation. You did a really great job presenting it to us tonight. So I thank you for the time that
Absolutely.
the committee and you have put into what's in the best interest moving forward and presenting it tonight. So thank you for your
Absolutely.
work.
Thank you so much, Kate.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So go ahead and do the roll call.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes?
Toohill,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
and Gandy.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Again, Nahom, thank you and the committee. Really appreciate all of your efforts that you have put in, and great job. Okay, so we will move on. Chris Sorflaten, is Chris here? Oh, there you are.
Hello, my name's Chris Sorflaten. I hope everyone got the paperwork I sent. Here's my credentials. I'm certified with the Beaver Institute. I don't know if you guys want to pass that around.
It's fine.
So I'm the state representative for Iowa from the Beaver Institute. So I trained for 2 years, and I've been monitoring the beavers in town for 5 years. I've been working as a professional, traveling around the state, doing beaver installations, helping people coexist with beavers, and educating people. So during that time, just everything's been going fine until this spring. Early this spring, I noticed there was a severe over-trapping problem at the Neff wetland, and all the beavers got trapped out, along with turtles and frogs too. We were on the news. Did anyone see the ABC clip, the news clip I sent out, the email?
Oh.
Yeah.
Get your email.
You didn't get the agenda email, the PDF and the links? Connie got it, right?
Yeah.
I got it, but it was refusing to open up for me, so I'm gonna have to maybe try it on a different device than what I was trying earlier today. So I'm
Okay.
sorry I didn't
It
get to see it.
didn't even open up at all.
When did you send it?
They're-
It's on our agenda. The links.
Thursday?
Yeah.
Oh,
Link at the
down
bottom.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
There,
Okay.
it's on our agenda.
I thought you sent it as a separate email.
Okay,
Okay, I have it.
okay, I'm good.
You got my phone number too.
Yeah.
How'd you get
So-
that?
Chris, I think one of the
It's okay, I'm
questions
sorry.
is, for me, I get that you want some no trapping signs, correct?
Yeah, so I made some no trapping signs.
And is there anything legal, or I mean, is there anything in our city code, which I don't think, Rebecca and I tried to look to see if there's anything in our city code that says, you know, you can't trap beavers, for example. And then at the state level, is there anything on that?
There
or
is,
is this to
there
be-
is at both levels. Our ordinance has part of it in the same area where we restrict projectiles, basically shooting in town, bows and arrows, BB guns, things like that. There is a provision in that part of the code, and I don't have it memorized, but basically it says you cannot trap, except you may be allowed to live trap if you get a permit through the police department. And that's usually when you've got an animal that's causing somebody concern about rabies, maybe a coon that's sitting on somebody's deck looking in their house wanting to get in. That kind of stuff has happened over the years. But for the most part, that's in the code. And then the DNR has a whole set of trapping regulations and restrictions on where you can do it.
Okay,
Trapping is also addressed in our animal control code.
okay, we weren't looking in the right place, so, okay.
You said some beavers are trapped in Fairfield frequently?
Yeah.
And
And
do you know if people have obtained licenses to do that?
well, the DNR traps beavers for free in the town, which if you go to the DNR website, it explains that the DNR is supposed to live trap and relocate whenever possible.
Right.
And so the DNR is actually putting live trappers like me out of business and other trappers too. So that's this whole other thing that we don't want to get into, you know, and there's a conflict between the Des Moines DNR and the
I'm trying to figure out, is the DNR trapping the beavers in town, or is it someone else doing it?
no. And they got very angry when I asked them. They do not
Are
like
they
it.
trapping them for furs, or?
No, it's, as far as my theory goes, there's people out there who enjoy trapping as a hobby, and they have been doing it as a favor to the town. They see a beaver dam, they're like, why would anybody want a beaver dam? Let's just trap them out, get rid of them, do the town a favor. And then I was talking to Roland Hecker, and we did a TV show, and he found trappers coming from out of state, from Missouri, coming to the town and trapping out all the turtles and frogs to conceivably sell at the exotic meat market in St. Louis or at a restaurant. We don't know. It's a very vague and crazy thing, but it is a legitimate problem, and that's why our group felt like, at the very least, we could just put up signs, just to
Right,
try and
but-
curb the over trapping. A little bit of trapping's fine, but over trapping, you know, it's
All right, I got two questions then.
yeah.
Can we restrict trapping in the city limits?
Yeah.
And the second question then is Melanie here?
No,
She's
Shannon.
not here.
On the REAP grant that we have, can we use that money to pay for signage for trapping, no trapping signs? The REAP
answer is
grant is
no.
down
says no.
further on the.
Brittany says no. Brittany says no.
No?
Cannot.
It's for Pleasant Lake only.
Oh, I see, okay.
And do you, well, yeah, never mind.
I'm not opposed to putting up signs, I mean,
Yeah. John, do you have an opinion on that, about
Well-
putting up signs? What is your recommendation?
I'm listening to what Chris is saying, and I know several people that each year buy a fur-bearing trapping license. You probably have one.
Yep.
And that is supposed to be part of statistics that the DNR keeps, and so that they're watching to see if something is being over-trapped or whatever. But as far as, I don't know how they keep track of pelts and so forth, but you probably do.
The one beaver I found, it was right next to the bike trail. And I didn't want to have to tell this story. But it wasn't trapped for the pelt, and it was left to rot right next to the bike trail. And that was back in March. And that's what sounded the alarm. I talked to Pam at Parks and Rec. I talked to Sean Morrissey, and he okayed relocating live beavers back to the Neff wetland. And then, and then of course that's when I started talking to the DNR, like, hey, can we get some live beavers here? And they didn't want to hear it. So at this point, there is at least one beaver back in town building dams. So at this point, what we want to do is make a big push to get signs up to preserve that last beaver that's here, and eventually, hopefully, he'll find a mate, and get beaver colonies going. And then, as part of my training, I'm trained with dealing with water level concerns. So there's like simple devices we can build that will keep the water at a certain level, and also we can protect trees. And I've been doing this for 5 years. There's plenty of fundraising available, crowdfunding, and the signs. We want to do a wide variety of signs. So we want to have like artists do a picture for the sign, and we want every sign to say something a little bit different. So I don't know. Should I pass them around?
So,
Yeah. So it's like wildlife rehabilitation. So there's like each sign gives a little bit different angle on the education value of beavers, and I could go on and on about the benefits of beavers. Crow Creek, the Chautauqua Park area, is real close to the town artesian well. And I talked to the water department, and they were like, we'll probably get another 20 years out of that well. The level drops like 20 to 40 feet a year. So if we had a beaver wetland there, that would actually recharge the well. Because right now, that water is only a couple inches deep. It's not recharging the well, not nearly as much as if you had, a whole beaver pond wetland there.
So it seems to me like this is a deeper conversation that needs to go to committee, and maybe even talk about bringing
well, can I read
Sean
this?
in from the conservation, and yourself, and maybe a DNR person, but the water department, if you're bringing that point up. So
We have an ordinance here, 6.30.020, that says prohibited traps anywhere within the city limits is prohibited. So we already have an ordinance in place.
So that would be-
obviously we need some education out there too.
And signage.
So with the Sierra, have you talked to the Sierra Club at all?
Vaguely. They approach me sometimes, but I never know what to say to them.
So, do you want to move that to the Environmental and Franchise Committee?
I'll make that
Since it's
motion.
environmental, okay.
Second.
Okay, moved by Flournoy, second by Gandy. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I do have one
Yeah.
question. If we already have an ordinance prohibiting this, does it need to go to committee? Is there,
Well, I just thought maybe there could be more thorough discussion about, maybe where to put them and
Specifics.
how, and, maybe additional things we might want to do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that would be helpful, and we could nail the language down on the signs, how many different types of signs, and then we could, from the committee.
Just a little
could-
more detail.
Yeah,
sounds good.
And help educate the public and ourselves.
yeah.
Because, I don't know if beavers do damage to anything like a woodchuck does, right?
Oh, yeah.
Groundhogs can do real damage underneath your porch and underneath your foundations,
yeah.
and I don't know if beavers do that, but, so again, just more education.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign? Okay, so we'll take it to the environmental committee, and, well, we're moving committees around a little bit, but I think maybe Elizabeth is still going to be environmental. I can't remember. Anyway, we'll get in touch with you.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Great.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
And so next up is our library director. Sorry, Alex, I actually jumped over you. So,
I have one correction to share with the council members and those gathered here tonight. It's the page outlining the library's current holdings or collection. Good evening, Mayor Boyer, Council, Denise and John, and community of Fairfield. I'd like to begin my report this evening by reading to you a poem written for the library by one of our community members, a young man named Elisha Vanderlinden. Thank you for all you do. This is a poem just for you. A library, a place of wonder, a place full of excitement. Here you can get lost and you wouldn't even know it. I love the library. A poem by Elisha Vanderlinden. Elisha, my first year as children's services specialist, he would occasionally drop off short stories he had written, and they were very encouraging for me in my first year in that role. I included in my letter in a PDF a summary of some of our accomplishments during fiscal year 23. But this evening, I'd like to speak more about what's happening right now at the public library, and we can discuss any questions you might have about fiscal year 23 afterwards. In addition to any questions you might have about current efforts or initiatives of the library. This is my first year sharing the complete financial report and usage statistics for library use. This is a fairly in-depth document, and I am indebted to my predecessor, Rebecca Johnson, for creating the report template, and to our office coordinator and former Libertyville City Clerk, Karen Blakely, for assisting me in completing this year's report. Please let me know if there are any specific questions you have about figures in the financial sections of the report after I share some brief words. In the library collection and usage sections, you will notice that the library's usage is continuing to increase with each year that passes. This is a continuing trend in these post-pandemic years. You will see that picture books saw one of the most dramatic increases in the past fiscal year, with an increase of almost 3,000 checkouts. I'm of the opinion that the greatest work our library does is serving families with children who are perhaps just beginning to develop reading fluency. There is something profound and inexplicably good that happens when a caregiver reads to a child and when children learn to read on their own. Our storytime programs, book clubs, and book recommendations, or reader's advisory as we call it, serve this purpose. Downloadable ebooks and e-audiobooks continue to see circulation increases in the thousands, while magazine use has greatly declined. With some surprise, we see that DVD and Blu-ray checkouts are actually increasing to some extent, whereas CDs and books on CD are showing little change from year to year. I'm very happy to see that usage is increasing from year to year, and our membership continues to grow as well. I would also like to share some updates now for the current fiscal year. September is National Library Card Sign-Up Month, and this past September, we saw a dramatic increase in the number of patrons who signed up for new cards or renewed their accounts with us. To put this in perspective, 3 years ago, we had about 200 patrons update their accounts. Last year, the number rose to 400, and this past September, we had over 800 patrons update their accounts in a single month. Then, in the past 2 months, we've had an additional 200 patrons come in and get their accounts updated. Clearly, library use is continuing to increase, and this is mostly due to the efforts of our library's front desk staff. With the financial support of the city, in the last year, we were able to do some updating of our public restrooms, clean up and beautify the library grounds, as well as update our security system with higher definition cameras. And I'd like to just mention here that the local Scouts troop were responsible for repairing our flagpole, which had not been working for a number of years. They were able to find actually a local welder who was able to weld a new crank for the flagpole. Apparently the materials for the crank only cost about $10. And the pieces that they repaired inside the flagpole were, very, very inexpensive as well. And so it's amazing when we can rely on those capable volunteers, especially our youth, right, who are, taking the lead. This year, we have updated the library's lighting system. Stop by and see it if you haven't yet. It was actually just completed this week, today, in fact. We've had walls repaired and repainted. And in late January, we are scheduled to have the library's 30-year-old HVAC control system updated. Thank you so much to all the residents of Fairfield for your support in financing these much-needed updates and repairs. It's true that library use in Fairfield is increasing, and I'm delighted to see these statistics, as well as seeing families carrying stacks of books home from the library. However, I am looking to the future, to the next decade, or 30 years into the future. Most of us will agree and acknowledge that neither young people nor our seniors read print materials or search for information the way they did 30 years ago when the current building was designed. To meet today's needs, modern libraries are dynamically developing into spaces where so much more can be done. Libraries are becoming more and more open spaces where the community can gather informally, and children's services departments are more actively supporting multiple literacies such as digital, health, and agricultural literacy, together with community partnerships. Generally speaking, libraries are becoming cozier, more informal spaces. As our tendencies change, so must the library. That is why I have begun discussions with an award-winning, internationally recognized architecture firm based in the Midwest to develop a project plan for a number of updates to our building, including updates to our children's department, our meeting room, our book sales space, as well as aesthetic updates to the building decor and furnishings. With the support of the library's Board of Trustees, we have a facilities condition assessment will be completed in the spring of 2024, and next fall we hope to begin discussions with community stakeholders and our design firm to develop conceptual plans for the updates. I feel very strongly that a significant part of my mission as library director is to help initiate and oversee the next major phase of development for Fairfield Public Library. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Any questions for Alex tonight? No? Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on now to resolution, action items, and ordinances. First up is I'm going to open the public hearing on the matter of Crow Creek Bridge plan specifications, form of contract, and engineer's estimate. So, I'll open the public hearing. Does anybody want to talk about the Crow Creek Bridge? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And next is the action item, consideration of Crow Creek Bridge plan specifications, form of contract, and engineer's estimate. You'll see attached to the public hearing was the engineer's estimate of $2,241,000, and we have established funding for $2,260,000. Melanie, did you want to say anything about that, by the way?
Nope.
Okay. And
Any questions?
the bids will be open tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're basically approving what
We're
we're.
approving the drawings, specifications, and the estimate. And the construction cost is 1.7. The total project cost is the 2.2.
Correct.
So
Yeah. So I'd entertain.
Who's the money
a-
that the state had that the county was holding that we got when we took possession of the bridge?
it is in the 2022 lost.
Funds,
Well, down here, the first line and the second.
yes, yep. And there, I think there was a little more.
That's all of it right there?
Yeah, it was, I believe it was 190 some.
So when we got the money from the county, we put it into the lost account for roads and transportation?
We put it into one of the street funds so that it would go back into this project,
So
yes.
it was 137,000.
I think it was more than that.
I thought it was more than that.
Yeah,
but
but it was right around 200, so. It was, it's not all shown on there. Okay, but we are using it and we did get it all.
Okay.
They wrote one lump sum check and we deposited it into the streets account.
Right, because it looks like it's coming out of local option sales tax, and people should know that it's not coming out of the sales tax revenue. It's coming from money transferred from the state.
To the county,
To the
back to
county
us.
and then to
Yes.
us.
Yes, thank you.
So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Anderson,
Second.
second by Rasmussen. Any further discussion? None, seeing, please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Rowe. Yes. Flournoy.
Yes.
Okay, the next action item is consideration to accept Morgan Street Reconstruction Project as final. And you gonna talk about that from, okay,
So Morgan Street. I'm Matt Walker with French Renninger Associates. Morgan Street was paved in December of 22 was when they wrapped that up. In May of 23, they came back and did seeding, and the seeding didn't take at all. So we had them come back in September to reseed, and it finally took, and everything looks acceptable. So what we have before you tonight are the final two pay estimates for Hickey Contracting. The one is the final pay estimate, which includes the seeding, and the second is just the retainage releasing the project.
great. So the one is 5,823.50 and 12,634.44.
Correct.
All right.
Motion to accept Morgan Street reconstruction is final.
Okay, moved by Anderson.
Second.
Second by Flournoy. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next action item, consideration of agreement for surface transportation block grant program federal aid swap project. Again, this is for Crow Creek. This agreement between the Iowa DOT and us. We'll receive up to $800,000, correct?
Yep. So the city receives $240,000, around $240,000 a year from the state. Automatically it goes into this STBG fund that the region facilitates. We still do an application that the region approves. We are allowed to bank that money or borrow ahead. And so this $80,000, we are borrowing ahead $130,000. But this is the agreement to allow us to use the, up to $800,000 of those funds for Crow Creek Bridge. And if bids come in favorable, my recommendation would be to use these funds last because the other places that these funds can be used would be Burlington, which will be part of the Public Safety and Transportation Committee report.
So these can be used for any construction project?
No, they can only be used on, arterial and major collector roads. So roads over a certain volume, Kirkwood, D, 32nd, 4th, we use those funds. And out of all of those roads, Burlington is about the last one we have left. So,
Okay, on this, just for clarification, on this IDOT document, part 5, it had a list of like 5 things: preliminary engineering, construction, engineering. There's an X next to construction, but is that just a checkoff list? Is that what that is?
that means that we can only use it for
That's
construction.
what I thought,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't clear, but just looking at it, but, thank you. So I'd make the motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
second by Gandy. Any other discussion? Now please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Melanie. At the work session, you'll remember that we looked at strategic priorities for the city from the listing that we created about 3 years ago. I think we did that in 21, as I recall. And so I took everybody's comments and put them into 5 different categories. Housing and the comments got the most votes. And I bolded the first 7 because those are certainly things that we can, as a city, can work on. Certainly the Housing Task Force has things yet to do. And once their director gets on board, we'll start working with those committees a little bit more lively. So that's number 1. Downtown revitalization got 5 votes and lots of comments, which you can see there. The third thing is improve agreements with MIU, Fairfield School District, park and rec user and programs. We talk about fees and such. FIDA, Chamber, CVB, FACC, 2080 agreements that we have with county, et cetera. So we really want to, I guess the idea is to review those and refocus some efforts on there and see where we can provide cost sharing and different things. So make those a little bit tighter. The next one was homeless, about 3 votes. Really, I guess, trying to understand what our situation here is in Fairfield and what measures can be taken. And then there were a couple votes for our website design, and I think, just as an FYI, Rebecca thought that was a $15,000 to $20,000 item. Does that sound right?
That sounds
Yeah.
right.
So,
$15,000 to $20,000?
yes.
Okay. Oh.
So it may be discussion for Ways and Means when we get there this next month.
When was the last time it was redesigned?
Does anybody know?
It's been the same website since I've been on the council.
Okay, so
That's been 8 years?
8 years.
it's had equally poor interface that whole time.
I wasn't gonna say that out loud.
Might be tough.
Everybody knows it.
So, yeah, so
Yeah.
I would say that's something Ways and Means could take up and to see if there's any room in the budget for that, but, can be discussed.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah,
That once you assign committee chairs and committees, that they look at this list and then ask that they be placed on the agenda for consideration
yep,
and approach it in that direction.
yep, sounds good. That's kind of where I'm going. So, sounds good. So, yeah, so we'll just, let's see. So I guess we need to prove that this list is okay. Is that all right? We do have an action item.
Oh, I'll make the motion to accept the list.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Flournoy, second by Toohill. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Anderson,
Abstain.
Rowe.
Yes.
Okay, next action item, consideration of water recreation access cost sharing. It's a grant agreement, and you want to talk about these 2 grants, Brittany? This one has to do with the boat ramp
Yeah.
at Pleasant Lake. So can you give us the rundown and the numbers and such?
Yeah, sure. So if you remember back to July, I had to look up when I was here last, that was kind of you guys giving the blessing for us to submit these 2 grants. And both of them were accepted and fully funded. And so this is now just that approval of the grant agreements. So for the water recreation access cost share, this is the boat ramp at Pleasant Lake. So this will, if you're familiar with the area, it will gravel the drive down. It will expand the existing dirt slash mud parking area, and then it will extend both deeper into the water and wider the actual boat ramp, which will allow the DNR to put their boat in and test the water. Currently, they are not willing to do that based on the state of the boat ramp. So this was a $7,000 grant, which was funded through the marine fuel tax, 75% covered through that program, and the 25% will come out of the park and recreation budget. So Bonneville Lake already has one that was done through the water department to move that ramp to a different location. So this grant will allow both Pleasant and Bonneville Lake to have boat ramps, which will allow the DNR to test the water in both of those lakes.
Okay.
Who else uses the boat ramp?
Different recreational users.
Like,
Kayakers.
Kayakers and
Kayakers,
Canoers
canoers, people who have like the trolling motors on their boats. I know people when they ice fish, that's typically the access that they use as well.
I'd move we approve the grant agreement with WRAC.
Okay. Moved by Flournoy,
Second.
second by Ham. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes?
Toohill,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, the next action item, again, is the REAP grant. So Resource Enhancement and Protection Grant. And again, this is a Pleasant Lake habitat restoration, so
Yeah.
give us the details.
So this one is 100% covered by the REAP funds through the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. And this one is a little bit more complicated. It's a larger project and it can be broken into three main things. The first one is educational signage, which is through the same company that the Nady Prairie has the same signage. These are neighboring areas, so this will kind of create a cohesive feel there. They're really high quality. They customize the signs for us, and they're also, if you've been out to Nady Prairie and you've seen that area, they're just really high quality. I hate to say vandal proof because as soon as you say it, then somebody will go out there. But UV protection, really high quality. We've worked with the company before, and we like them a lot. So signage is one portion. The second portion is an extension to the existing dock that's there. So there's currently the brand there. It's called Easy Dock, and the great thing is it's easy to add to that dock. So what will actually happen is the current gangplank will be removed. It's in need of repair, and it will be replaced with an aluminum gangplank. There will be another section added, and then there will also be kind of, people call them tacos. If you've ever seen them before, they are hooked onto these boat docks, and you can put your canoe and your kayak in there, and people, especially with back problems or knee problems, can canoe and kayak significantly easier than loading from the actual boat ramp itself. So that's a second portion of that, and then the third and largest portion is the habitat management side of it, and so that's the 54,000 and some change. And so that will be broken into a couple rounds. The first round should start at the beginning to middle of January, trying to choose a really cold time of year so the ground is frozen, hopefully. And they will come in with the forestry mulcher, which was used on that kind of northeastern chunk out at Pleasant Lake already. So basically what has been done there is now going to be done on the western side of the lake. They will mulch all of the invasive species, and then the same contractor will come back and he will spot spray any regrowth of the invasive species. He'll do 2 rounds of that. Our biggest concern with that is the educational piece that comes with the community seeing kind of drastic measures to get the land back in place. You guys are aware of what was done at Lamson Woods was dramatic, and overall I think it was widely accepted, but there are some people who have concerns about that. So Ron Blair has been working on educational signs that will go out every time the work is done, and kind of specific to that project. So Any remaining funds, after the mulching and the follow-up spray, that will be used for, timber stand improvement, and that's a little bit still up in the air. We're gonna work with the, REAP committee to see, how we can best use those remaining funds.
Right.
Any
Thank you.
questions?
Motion to approve project funded by REAP.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes?
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Rowe. Yes. Toohill.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Next action item, consideration to set public hearing for annexation of Prairie Oak Subdivision adjacent to Prairie Lakes. This is for Monday, January 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m.
Move to set hearing?
Moved by Gandy,
Second.
second by Flournoy. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Gandy.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rowe. Yes. Ham.
Yes?
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Okay, next action item. Consideration to set public hearing to enter into a site lease agreement with the Interstate Power and Light Company. Ground-mounted solar, again, this is for Monday, January 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m.
Motion to set public hearing.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, I missed Anderson and Flournoy. Anderson.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes?
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rowe. Yes. Gandy.
Yes.
Great. The next action item is a consideration of agreement with Fairfield Economic Development Association. This was an agreement that was written and shared with our auditors, and they gave approval.
Yes, they did.
They liked it.
They gave us the green light, yes.
Have you shared it yet with FIDA, or we're passing it and then we'll share it with FIDA?
I have not shared that with them
Okay,
yet.
just wanted to double check. So hopefully we'll pass it, if that's your pleasure tonight, and then we'll get it over to FIDA and it'll be acceptable to them.
Oh, who proposed it?
They did.
Who's they?
The,
Auditor?
Well, it started with Aaron Kness. He put some language together, and then I worked on it a little bit, and we gave it to the auditors to say, is this kind of what you're looking for? So,
Second paragraph is kind of a run-on sentence, so could use a little editing. My only suggestion is that we, there's nothing in there about the status of the city in there. Are we members of FIDA if we agree to this arrangement? That's what my understanding is, so that should be, I think, mentioned in the document.
I don't, maybe John can answer that. I just see it as a contract that for consideration. This is what they do for us, and this is what we do for you. It's not about membership necessarily, but
Well,
Do we have our city attorney read it? Or review it?
did you give it to John?
I don't remember whether I sent it to John or not.
I haven't seen it.
Then I haven't
Okay.
sent it. I sent it to the auditor
Okay.
because the idea, the purpose of that was to prove to the auditors that it served as the public purpose component, and they fulfilled that obligation.
So from the point of view of the auditor, they're satisfied with the agreement?
Yes, sir.
Did the auditor have a review by council, or do you know?
No,
Probably not.
We sent it to them, they sent it back, and now it's here.
So maybe we should table it and have John review it and
I
bring it
think
back.
so. So we want to make sure that the city is protected and it's fair to grow Fairfield. I believe they go by Grow Fairfield now, not FIDA. But we want to make sure that the agreement, since we have one, which I think is a good idea, is comprehensive.
Yeah.
And that would be worth his review, I think.
And if you have some suggestions, Doug, about how to change this wording a little bit, that's fine.
okay.
So,
And maybe, go ahead, John.
Full disclosure, I've been FIDA's attorney ever since it was founded. So I got about a 45-year bias as far as advising them. I think I have two opinions on this. One is I think the state auditor's overreaching as far as telling nonprofits what they should do. They have their own exemption standards. As long as they stay tax exempt and they follow their purposes, I don't think it's the state's business. But it is the state's business to have accountability, and I agree with the state auditor as far as there ought to be a way in so that the town knows what's going on with the funding that it partners with on groups like FIDA. And that's been happening for decades, and I don't think we've ever been called on it until the current state auditor decided to announce that everybody ought to be more careful about what they're doing. So if I thought for a minute that a nonprofit group that works with the city and partnering was taking advantage of the city, I'd have said something a long time ago. But I think for this purpose, we've got an understanding, and FIDA is one of about Fairfield, the city, is one of about 70 members of FIDA. So you have a place at the table as an ex officio on the board, but the board, for some purposes, it excludes the ex officio if it's doing something that's confidential. So those kinds of things, I'm aware that they have those rules. Sometimes they tell me to get out of the room. But the other side of it is it serves a purpose that can remain exempt and also confidential that is a little different. And it's a handy tool to have because the city can benefit from that confidentiality at times. We may have a project 2 years in the offing, and when city council, as part of the partnering, announces it when it's ready to break publicly, the people that were on the other side of the development are very happy to have had some control on their own release as far as that. So that's worked dozens of times in the past, and I think it continues to work. And regardless of what the state auditor wants from us, I doubt very much that a lot of the developing nonprofits like FIDA around the state have done everything the state auditor wants them to do. But the other side of that is what my understanding from Aaron Kness in meeting with the mayor and Doug and taking the FIDA board position to the city was that they would commit on the behalf of the FIDA group to devote anything that is funds either from membership or from the ongoing additional, I'll call it a stipend. There's some extra money that comes out of the old UDAG monies year after year, and it's been that way for a decade or more already. Another $16,000 a year, I think, last year. But when that happens, they commit to devoting any of those funds, membership or stipend, strictly to public purposed activities consistent with what the city's public purposes would be for development. I think that sentence, however it might have been expressed in the letter, was unanimously okayed by the FIDA board, and I was told about it by Josh Larrabee. So I'm kind of paraphrasing, but isn't that about right, Doug?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so anyway, my opinion's going to be to you that FIDA will probably still remain somewhat confidential and behind the screen, and the working relationship the city has with it should still satisfy what the state auditor expects as far as accountability.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any change in that expectation from the city, that we understand that they've got to do some things confidential. I think this just spells it out how, what the city purpose is and where the money goes, and it's no different than what we've been doing. It's just more transparent, and, I guess, do you think this should be changed, this language?
No.
Okay.
I haven't seen the language
It
yet,
hasn't
but
yet.
what's been described, I don't have any problem.
I would certainly go ahead and move for approval at this time.
I think that'd be premature if our attorney hasn't
Yeah.
looked at it.
I've seen no reason.
Here's a problem. The attorney we're asking to look at it represents FIDA.
Neither has FIDA looked at it. They didn't write it.
Right. No, what I'm
Well-
saying, our attorney, our city attorney represents FIDA and is also our
That's
city
a
attorney.
conflict of interest.
That is a conflict of interest.
That's why I make a full disclosure. I don't think
Thank you.
it's
So that's why
incompatible.
I think it's going to make some sense for us to have another attorney, outside counsel, look at the agreement from the point of view of the city. It's not I don't think it would take much time, but I think it's valuable and fair for FIDA, for John to, as he's speaking on behalf of FIDA, for us to have someone who speaks on behalf of the city. Not to be adversarial, but just to be, so that to be fair to the city, to make sure we have.
It's in everybody's interest to have it done
Yes.
correctly.
I think.
Yes.
I have three questions or points. I thought the auditor wanted this in resolution format. Would this meet that requirement? That's something to think about.
Yeah.
You have to give me an answer today.
Yeah.
The UDAG money was just a vehicle for transferring the money. We just pay them $26,000 a year, not 26. Last year it was 16,000 in the line item for UDAG to FIDA. The total is 26,000. It's not 26 plus 16, is it?
No. It's 10,000 dues and then
16 for
approximately 16 or
contribution.
dues on the other, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we've had a good relationship with FIDA over the years at Grow Fairfield. Now they have new leadership or a new executive director at Grow Fairfield. I think it makes sense now to set things forth in writing, because, the leadership will change over time, as it will in the council.
All right. So we get billed separately for those two items then?
Yeah.
One for membership and the other one for contribution for economic development?
Right.
Okay. If that's the case, we get billed for membership and it says that on the invoice like it did before, then it doesn't have to be in this document because it's already clear that we have membership in FIDA.
Right, and I'm not trying to beat up on the state auditor as far as the fact, we've
my
always
third-
paid, similar to Chamber of Commerce, we've had a FIDA membership all the way back
That was my
into the
third point.
mid-seventies.
John, was that the reason the auditor wanted this was to convey to the public the purpose of the expense, what public service or purpose it served. That's why
Right.
this was being put together. I think that's the only reason.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Doug.
So, and with that in mind, of the 10,000 and 16,000, that can be changed a little bit here in this wording. Because
I think it'd
it's just
make
a
it clearer,
26,000. So that can be
Should we-
adjusted a little bit.
Should we refer to economic development and let them take it to,
I would agree with that.
Outside counsel.
Yep. Or however they want to decide and
I'll
bring
make
it
a
back to
motion to give
council.
it to economic development and let them find somebody to look at it.
Second.
So
Okay,
did the
so
first
there's a-
motion die?
Pardon me?
Did Martha's motion die?
There wasn't a second.
Okay.
Unless, there was not a second. I didn't call for a second though either. So,
So now
so
we're
maybe
at a
we should go
conundrum.
back.
Okay.
We need to go back.
We need to go back.
Yeah, you've gotta
Is
deal
there,
with the
because
motion.
Martha did move to
I
move
did
this
move.
forward. Is there a second to that motion? Okay, hearing none, that motion's gonna die. Now we've got a motion on the floor from,
Doug.
who was first? Doug?
He did.
Oh, me,
Floor and I moved, Gandy second, to push this to Economic Development Committee. Refine it a little bit, sounds like, and get some legal. And I think once you refine it, send it over to FIDA as well and kind of get their feedback. And then we'll bring it back, and you want to double check on the resolution form?
Very well.
Okay, so. Okay, with that in mind, let's do the vote for that.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
No,
Ham,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Rowe.
Okay, great, thank you. Next resolution, consideration to accept street dedication and road right-of-way. This has to do with neighborhood builders in Lincoln Court. And Melanie is there, ready to tell us what it's all about.
Yeah, so this is dating back from 2019. The Court Street that runs between what will soon be East Libertyville Road and Lincoln Avenue. Neighborhood builders, well, actually, the city built that in a development agreement with neighborhood builders. The water and sewer was built by the city, so it automatically went to us. But the parcel that the road sits on was never dedicated to us. So this is taking care of that. And is accepting the dedication of Tract A of Lincoln Court, which is the roadway. And it does, I will note that there is kind of a retroactive date saying that we accepted the property as of November 1st, 2019, because we did start plowing snow that year. And that it's actually helping with an action that the county is taking. The county is abating the taxes on this parcel going back as well. And so we're dating how long we have taken ownership of it.
Motion to accept street dedication and road right
Can
of
I
way.
say one thing here
Yeah.
too? The Lincoln Court part of the street, the way I remember it, is what Mike Harmon signed off on as far as building initially. And then when they turned the corner, I think the reason that didn't get dedicated was they didn't have people ready to build there yet. So that was gonna come later in 2020 and 2021, and I think they're still building going north.
Yeah,
That's
no,
the whole idea.
it was part of a TIF project because
Yeah.
the city did the road and the street all as one project.
Okay.
Yeah, it just
But had we turned the corner yet when,
yeah,
we did?
yeah,
Okay,
in 2019.
all right.
Finish your motion.
I stand corrected.
Motion to accept.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. Any other discussion, questions? Now please call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Rowe. Gandy.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Okay, we have an ordinance, first reading, consideration of amending large item pickup sticker fees.
Taken up by Ways and Means on Tuesday,
Yeah,
this question.
okay,
So, Waste Management has changed their fee for large item pickup from $15 to $30. And we sell stickers here at the front office and under this ordinance. So this is simply an edit to change the amount from 15 to 30,
okay,
to be consistent with what we're doing up front.
okay. Want to make that in motion for?
Yeah, I make the motion to move from the first to second reading.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Gandy. Any discussion, questions? No, please call the roll.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Okay, the next ordinance is amending electric franchise fees. This is the first reading. And I'll just note that the next one is the gas franchise fee. And I think you got 2 pages here that both say electrical. Just note that one should say gas. I think the electrical got attached twice. So let's do the first one. Does the committee want to talk about this,
Sure.
please?
So, Melanie, you can help me in my memory. We had a lost 1 cent tax on electric and gas until what year?
You were asking the wrong person.
You told me on Tuesday.
No, I said I didn't know, and I wasn't Aaron.
I know you're not Aaron.
That just happened in the last couple of years.
A couple
When
years
we
ago.
changed this.
Remember when we switched, those who were here, we switched the 1 cent tax on the electric and gas billing from lost local option sales tax to a 1% franchise fee.
Yes.
I do remember that.
And none of the residential people would see a difference because it's still 1%.
Right.
But when we switched it from lost to franchise, we picked up income or franchise income based on usage from people who were not paying the lost, but were required to pay the franchise. Like the hospital, the school district, some industries, churches. So we picked up a few extra bucks that way. All right, so, if you recall, last year, we had a $443,000 deficit, which we made up by dipping into the general fund and to the local option sales tax reserves to make up that shortage. And this ordinance is recommending that we increase the franchise fee from 1% to 5%. So if you were paying $100 a month for electric, you'd be paying, in the $100, you'd be paying a $1 franchise fee to the city. Under the old ordinance, if you adopt this ordinance, you'd be paying $5, so an increase of $4 per 100 cost to the resident or the user.
So it'll be 105.
Be 105 instead of 101, right?
What's the estimate of the additional revenue?
Okay. I did not bring that sheet with me, but I can roughly, it's about $200,000 now with the 1%. If we had, 2 years ago, or when we made the original change, we had increased it to, say, 3 or 3.5%, we would not have had the deficit that we had last year. So the increase in franchise fees would have made up for that.
See, I think we've only had 1 year,
Okay.
actually.
Yeah, I think you're right, something like that. So, if we went up to 3%, we would have made up for last year's deficit. So the committee is recommending to go to 5%. The extra 2% or 1.5% more that would be needed to make up the deficit would raise around $300,000. In addition to making up the deficit that we had last year.
That's for which franchise fee?
Both of them together.
Both together, combined.
Combined.
And you'll just leave it that way ongoing and will eventually restore the whole reserve? Is that what you're saying?
No.
No. All right.
You mean replenish the general fund and?
Yeah, you just described about a $300,000 improvement.
Yes,
which
because
is restoration, right?
Looking forward, I expect us to have increased costs in unfunded projects that we'd like to do.
Right, so
You
it
know,
might
I
not
imagine we're
come
gonna revisit, if we don't go to 5% today, we probably will in 2 years.
All right.
So my recommendation, or the committee's recommendation, was to just go ahead and pull the trigger now and do the full 5%. That's the maximum that is allowed. If you generate your own energy, then you're exempt. I mean, not exempt, but you don't pay the franchise fee because you're not buying it from Alliant. So with the increased use of solar and wind and everything else, you know, we're probably gonna see a decline in this franchise amount anyway over the next 10 years. So, I think in that time, we'll be looking for other revenue sources. But right now, this is the best way to make up our deficit, aside from the budget cuts that Doug is gonna explain that we're doing to try and meet the deficit that we're facing. Was that clear enough? Okay. So the same argument goes for both the electric and for the gas.
So we need a motion to
My
approve.
motion would be to accept the, move the ordinance from the first reading to the second reading.
For the electric franchise fee.
yeah.
Okay.
Second?
Second by Gandy. Further questions? No, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Anderson,
No.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Okay, now we go to the next ordinance, which is the gas franchise fee, and basically the same.
I'd make the motion to move the, amending the gas franchise fee from the first to the second reading.
Second?
Moved by Flournoy, seconded by Gandy. Any other questions? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Anderson,
No.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The next ordinance, again, is a first reading, consideration of amending and noticing of abatements.
Did everybody get that in their tablet? This notice of abatement? Because it just went over to City Hall today. We had to correct
Oh,
something
yeah,
on
it's
Friday.
attached.
It's attached?
It's attached.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody want an explanation?
Is it
Yeah,
the-
John, why don't you go ahead,
Is the
please?
change the underlined portion?
Right. Right now, we have an abatement notice that says we are supposed to give notice in the manner and form as original notices are served under the provisions of the Code of Iowa. Well, original notices right now are served by personal service, usually a process server or the sheriff. The usual cost is, what, $40 to $50, Weston?
30 to 40, I think.
30 to 40, okay, versus use of mail. Anyway, there's another provision in the state code that gives us a way around that. Our magistrate stopped us in a case and said he wasn't satisfied that we had service of process by a process server on a nuisance. We basically, my explanation was we've been doing it this way for 30 years. And we haven't had that particular notice by mail questioned in the past. And at that point, I suppose I'd say he showed a little fang, but he wasn't happy with that explanation and said you probably ought to look at your ordinance and see if you go back to some other rule of service. So this rule allows us to do essentially what is in Section 4 after we repeal that sentence about notices under the provision of the code as original notices, and we substituted in the manner allowed under the provisions of the Code of Iowa, more particularly consistent with 364.12 sub 3 H, which allows service by certified mail and then allows a progression of things if the person you're dealing with doesn't accept their certified mail. You go to the next step, all the way through to posting it by tacking it on the door. But the whole idea is you try to give notice that's best calculated to actually let the people know what you're trying to do. And this is, it's a problem that presents itself probably every month by somebody not accepting the mail that's been sent to them, somebody dodging us, and everything that's in Section 4 of this amendment plays towards us getting notice on them in some way, and also showing that the city's made a good faith effort to do due process notice if there is that argument happening in front of the court. Basically, you're equipping me with better arguments. So Weston and I have talked about this, and you're pretty much 100% in agreement, aren't you, Weston? Yeah, we have a different process, which after, if the council works with us on this and takes it through the readings, we will then also look at an addendum to our lawn mowing ordinance, which right now, we don't think that requires as high a level or standard of due process. So our thought is a mailing followed by a door hanger, 3 days in advance? So we want people to know they have an opportunity to avoid a costly lawn mowing, but we don't want to have to confront ourselves with all of the rest of the things we do on the other 15 nuisances or so forth that are in our code. So that's coming next, okay?
So I'll make the motion to move the ordinance amending notice of abatements from the first to the second reading.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Anderson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rowe. Rasmussen.
Yes.
Okay, great. Ordinance 1234, this is the second reading. This is designating the street name East Libertyville Road. That's down by the roundabout on the east side. So is there a motion to move that to the,
I have a quick question. Is
Yeah.
there a reason not to move this to final?
No,
I'd like to make a motion to move this to final reading.
okay?
I would second that.
Okay, so let's suspend the rules first. Right?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Sarah, we have a motion to suspend the rules.
I'm sure you're gonna have to do it.
I
Second.
thought you could do it
Unless
all
you're-
in one. I thought you could suspend the rules and move it to
Well,
final.
we can, but Doug insists we do it twice.
Doug.
What did I do?
You have always insisted we do it, suspend the rules and vote, and then vote on the third
Well,
final
Iowa
reading.
Code just says you don't have to have 3 readings, so you could probably do it as a single motion, I suppose. I don't know.
Okay, so now what is your preference?
I'll second. We'll just do the suspension if you want.
Okay.
That's probably the best
Okay,
way
so
to
we
do
got a
it.
first and a second for the suspending of the rules. Any discussion? Now please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes, and thank you for respecting my wishes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Okay, now we'll move this to the
Final reading, please.
final reading. Moved by Anderson.
Yeah,
Okay.
second.
Second by Rasmussen. Any other discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 1235, again, this is the second reading, and this is the ordinance amending breed-specific language.
I'm going to make the same request considering this is being mandated by the state. So I'd like to suspend the rules.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. No discussion, please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Motion to move to final reading.
Second.
Okay, moved by Anderson, second by Gandy. Any other discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Great. Under the mayor's report, I have one committee appointment to the Nady committee. And this is Austin Rowe. He's our new naturalist since Brittany Tiller is no longer the naturalist. She comes off, and Austin, who is the new employee, comes on to the Nady committee. And so I'd like approval to appoint him to the Nady committee.
Move we approve Austin Rowe's appointment to the Nady Committee.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved by Flournoy, second by Ham. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great, thank you. And again, I want to thank Martha and Katie for their years of service. And you're going to have so much time to just, help us in other ways, right? Which committee would you like to be on, Katie? Anyway, maybe afterwards we can take a formal picture, but
Oh.
Martha, here you go. Little
Thank
something to
you
put on
very
your
much.
wall.
Thank you.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Katie, here is yours.
Thank you.
We do really appreciate all the time that you've spent over the years, giving your personal time and efforts to the city. So thank you. And just a reminder quickly, like as soon as we adjourn, still stay put because we're gonna do swearing-ins right up front here. Okay. City attorney report.
Just a couple things. Following the last meeting, I mentioned that we had a mediation taking place in a trip and fall case where the city was a defendant party over in front of Shokai. An older woman named Edith caught her shoe in a crack in the sidewalk over there and claimed $289,000 against us and an insurance company or two. Dave Schrock, I mentioned, who has defended the city at times on retainer with ICAP or the insurance that underwrote, reported to me, and I don't know if you got similar letters, but settlement occurred on December 6th after mediation. It was approximately a third of the demand, and he thought that was appropriate. I know a little bit about the injuries, and if you get past the parties considering odds of liability or not, which is probably why there would have been a trial, slip and fall, sometimes the juries don't agree it's the sidewalk's fault. Depends on how good you are at picking up your feet. But those kinds of cases, if it goes that we are in some way liable, then the extent of the seriousness of the injury. This one had a woman who, when she spinned and fell, she landed on her tailbone, so to speak, and she pressed 2 or 3 of her vertebrae, had hairline fractures, and that's something that takes a while to heal. Kind of an injury that it's almost invisible. Eventually it does heal, but Dave Schrock felt that it was a fair valuation for the injury, so we're done with that situation. We have something new coming around the corner. Doug Reinert's been the recipient of some paperwork from a new sovereign citizen that is stepping into the shoes of our prior longtime sovereign Vera Rhodes. She's doing the notarizing on the things, but now there's one of our other old friends, Larry Allen Bell, is papering us all with the same kind of harassing documents. I think they did it because we had several suppressions of things that were done by Ms. Rhodes previously, and we had 3 or 4 protective orders. Now we're going to have to back up and do that same stuff with Mr. Bell, I think, just to get him to stop doing it. But if you get, in your capacity as a council person or here in the offices, if you're getting that kind of paperwork, let us know about it again, and every so often we'll be doing the same thing we just got done with Vera, just to try to keep this from turning into something that's an every week papering of our offices. So other than that, I want to, as far as from a perspective of behind the scenes, I know both Katie and Martha have been contributors and well researched on some of the things that we've changed in ordinances over a long period of time, so I appreciate them very much as far as helping out on that kind of thing. I second what the mayor said as far as the appreciation of the city, and especially it's sort of, you point at them as far as long-term service and also role models as far as the way to do things. They've been a big help in that. We've got a couple new people coming on board, so the role model to point at are stepping off. But I'll just say that for this point. Okay, so that's all I have.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's go to committee and board reports. Water and sewer.
Water and sewer met Monday, the 11th at noon. And present were the chairperson, Martha Rasmussen, myself, Tom Toohill, Rebecca Loper, Melanie Carlson, and Doug Reinert. We had 2 requests come up, and I guess this kind of boiled down to a question before we give our recommendations on the request. And the question came up is, these were both within a residences in a mobile home court. And the question is, who is responsible for the water bill, whether it's the owner of the mobile home court or the resident within the mobile home. We kind of agreed with ourselves that we feel it's the resident of the mobile home. They're the ones that have to report the leak. If the leak's not reported, it can be ongoing. It can be excessive to the owner of the court without knowing exactly where that leak may occur. That's kind of how we felt that these should be answered or handled on an individual basis. The two that came up, that's the only two that we had, and it happened to be both in the same court. One of them was a heater with a cracked water heater with a cracked fitting that was leaking underneath the home, and it had an excessive bill of $131.55 for sewer charges, which we recommend dismissing. So I make a motion, I guess, to recommend dismissing $131.55 for 2000 North Court 2F.
Second. Second.
Okay. There's a move and a second. Is there any questions? Can you please call the roll?
Toohill,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
And the second one was same address, 2000 North Court. It was Unit 7H. And water had dripped through a hole in the bathroom floor and had an excessive sewer charge of $47.63. And we recommend waiving the sewer charge of $47.63.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to waive that. Any other discussion, questions? No, please call the roll.
Toohill,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Ways and Means Committee, oh, is that all?
That's it.
That's it, okay. Ways and Means?
All right, we already covered three of the items, the change in fee for the large item pickup and the franchise fee for electric and gas. The fourth item that the committee took up on Tuesday was a lost, LOST, a lost funds request by the police department for a vehicle. Doug's not here, or Dave's not here right now, or, anyway, it's a convoluted story, but apparently they did not purchase the vehicle in '23 and they want to purchase it in fiscal year '24. Council's already approved the expense. Committee is aware of the delayed execution of that expense. No motion is needed or no action is needed by council. When Rebecca does an amendment to the budget, you'll see that jump in the public safety portion of the budget due to that shift in the money from '23 to '24.
Okay,
That's all.
great, thank you. Property Committee?
Thank you, Mayor. The Property Committee met on last Monday, on December 11th. We had a quorum present, thanks to Martha Rasmussen, our committee member, attending her last Property Committee meeting. We're going to miss you. Also, our city administrator, city clerk, city engineer, public works director, city attorney, our code compliance officer, and members of the public were present. We had two items for discussion on the agenda that evening. The first was the customer-hosted solar arrangement, and the second were proposed, actually, 657A properties. As to the first item, the city administrator gave a report on the customer-hosted solar arrangement, proposed land lease agreement with Interstate Power and Light Company, also known as Alliant Electric, or IPL, for approximately 4 acres of land near Fairfield's municipal airport. The city currently leases out the land for row crop farming. If there were an agreement in place, then IPL anticipates building a solar array on the land in 2025. The monthly lease payment would be a great deal more than what the city receives for leasing the land for farming. The city administrator proposed 2 different lease proposals. One would require IPL to pay the city a fixed monthly rent, whereas the other version would allow the lease payment to fluctuate depending on how much renewable energy credits, or RECs, IPL produces and sells. Going with the latter proposal would subject the city to marketplace risk in that the city could receive substantially less than lease payments depending on REC production and sales. At this time, IPL has not provided the city with the data that will allow the city to estimate the range and probability of various lease payment amount scenarios based on REC production and sales. But either lease is in one sense experimental because if the solar array turns out to be profitable for IPL, then they may expand the array and seek to lease more land from the city. At that time, based on the actual record of REC production and sales, the city may want a lease agreement which incorporates REC production in calculating the lease payment amount. But for now, after discussion and consideration between and among the city officials and the city staff, the committee arrived at a more risk-adverse conclusion. So our recommendation for item agenda 1 was, I moved and committee member Rasmussen seconded. We approved unanimously to recommend to the full council that it approve the version of the lease terms of the customer-hosted solar agreement that sets forth a fixed rate for the land rental. That's my first motion.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Gaddy, second by Anderson. Questions?
I do have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if their records are public? So if down the road we do want to see the production numbers, I mean, is it more than just a report that's going to be handed over? Like, is that open information? Do you know?
They are once they're filed with the Public Utilities Board.
But that would be well after, right? I'm guessing they don't have to file those till months after production?
Probably true.
Probably. Okay. Just curious if it was
Yeah.
public record.
They didn't give us any indication otherwise, right?
Okay. All right.
You know, I think that the lease proposal, which included REC production and sales as a component of the lease amount, or lease determination amount, probably included some provision where we were provided the information, right? In order for us to see if it's a fair number, but I don't know if the
Yeah.
other lease includes it.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any other questions? No, please call the roll.
Gandy,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
By the way, has the airport board seen this yet? The lease? Bob got a copy, didn't he?
Bob has a copy. I
Yeah.
thought he took it to them.
Shared it with him? Okay, great.
Second item for review and discussion at last week's property committee meeting was to look at 7 proposed, what are called 657A properties. I'll explain that in just a moment. And this is in furtherance of our housing task force recommendations. The city code compliance officer, Weston McGee, is present this evening, gave each of the 7 properties which were listed in the agenda. And working alongside our city attorney, they're asking of the city that it instruct the CCO and the city attorney to proceed against these properties with 657A actions, Iowa Code 657A. Iowa Code 657A refers to abandoned, forth a procedure and process for a municipality to take control of and rehabilitate or dispose of such properties. The CCO's report included a record of past written or attempted written communications with the property owners, a detailed listing of the multiple and various code violations of each property, a schedule of missed deadlines and suggested remedies offered to the property owners, and for 5 of the 7 properties, several photographs of the exterior and interior of the property. The code compliance officer presented the property at 5759 North Court Street as a special case in this list that warranted slightly different treatment. The committee reviewed and discussed with the CCO and other city staff present the conditions of these 7 properties, as well as the city's efforts to provide notice, explanation, and remedies to the property owners for each property's various code violations. The CCO's detailed report and thorough explanations convinced the committee that is to recommend next steps for the council in line with what the city staff is asking for. And so we have some pictures that Weston has provided of some of these properties. Weston, you might want to comment. This is, I believe, 5759 North Court Street.
Yes, it is. That's just an example of.
Can you come up to the mic? Sorry. So we can hear you better. Thank you.
That's just an example of some of the poor workmanship and the condition of the foam that is around the window seals that allows the water to get behind the brickwork, which is causing a lot of the damage to the building.
At 5759 North Court Street, is that correct?
That is correct. Just example of some of the water damage. This was the major thing that was wrong with that building, or probably the first concern, I should say. Not necessarily the most major, but first concern was the roof of this building. This problem has been taken care of. The owners have replaced this roof already. So it was just an example. This is this would be 302 West Burlington.
Can I ask one quick, the last one? I noticed the business that was on the first floor of that has since relocated to, was that a forced move or?
No, it was not a forced move.
Okay, I was just curious.
Okay, so the red house is on Burlington, 302 West Burlington. That's 306 West Burlington. 306.
That's not East Burlington? That's East.
Or, I'm sorry, East Burlington.
I
not
say I
West
recognize one of the houses.
Burlington. East Burlington. Yes. This house has had quite a bit of stuff done to it since these pictures, but it has yet to be brought up to code and finished. This is 701 South 4th. Again, 701, that's the water damage in the porch. That's the backyard to it. This house has squatters living in it right now. It's, from what we can understand, it's basically bank owned. Would you call it that, John?
Yeah.
Is that a local bank?
U.S. Bank.
Okay.
So the previous owner died about 2.5 years ago. There's money owed on the house, more than what the house is worth. So none of the family wants to take possession of the estate. U.S. Bank continues to pay the taxes on it, but they won't claim it as theirs. So we believe by using the 657A process that they will relinquish their rights to it.
Why are they paying taxes on it?
I'm guessing it's some kind of write-off, or somebody it's fallen through the cracks. This is, I believe, is 204 East Hempstead. This house caught on fire many years ago and has sat basically in the same state from what I understand.
Is it empty?
What's that?
That's empty?
No.
Multiple notices for mowing the yard, cleaning the trash up, removing the junk bus out back. We've really worked on the property owner on getting this, at least the exterior of it, cleaned up. It's taken a couple citations to get it and lots of notices, and I believe we've mowed the yard. I'm not 100%. I know I rode up, but
Is the owner in town?
she's here.
Okay.
This is on D Street. Can't remember,
405 South.
What's that?
405 South D.
405 South D. This owner would be what I call an absentee owner. They are out of state, and this house has been in this condition for, I believe, 6 years, basically.
I think 9.
9 years, okay. It's gutted on the inside. There's some bowing to the wall that I'm concerned with on the south side of it. without being inside of it. I don't know exactly the extent of what's going on there. This year the porch fell off the back, literally just crumbled. We know they were getting the notices because they cleaned it up, and they've made attempts to button up the outside of the house to try and get us to leave them alone. I don't feel like this is a good house to let continue to crumble in our community. Either it needs to be taken down or somebody needs to invest some money into it. This is 303 North 6th Street. That is a picture of the electrical that's ran from inside the house, outside, and back in some plastic tubing. That's one of the things that's the vegetation growing out of the roof. When we started working with this, that's part of the trash that was at the house. We had to cite them for it to get them to clean it up. That's it. That property also has a gas line that you have to step over to get into the house. It is laying on the concrete pad, and you can see it's moving and shifting on that gas line. That is one of our rental. And South D and 4th Street are not rentals. All the other ones in that list are rentals.
Occupied?
No,
Okay,
because I won't pass them,
okay.
or I've shut them down.
And only one of them is occupied by squatters.
One is occupied by
The
squatters,
rest of them are vacant.
as far as I can tell.
So the committee voted unanimously to recommend to the full council that it A, instruct the code compliance officer and other city staff to proceed with 657A actions against 6 of the 7 properties listed in the agenda, which you've seen pictures of, and B, that it instruct the city's CCO to set a 4-month time limit for the property owner of 5759 North Court Street, that's the first building pictures were shown of, to bring that property substantially in compliance with the city's property maintenance code or face a 657A action. That's my motion, my second motion.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Rasmussen. Now
Little-
discussion.
Little more discussion, Your Honor.
Wait a minute.
Yep.
The motion on the table right now is just for the building on the square. right?
No, sorry, the motion is, perhaps I should make 2 motions. Let me do that.
Let's do one motion at a
All right,
time.
one motion. First,
Okay, we're
First, it's a
withdrawing that motion.
I'm withdrawing the motion,
Okay.
all right. First motion is to instruct code compliance officer and other city staff to proceed with 657A actions against 6 of the 7 listed properties, excepting 57 to 59 North Court Street. 6 of the 7 listed properties that were spoken about are listed in the agenda, and of which pictures were shown this evening.
So I'm wondering if we shouldn't do those separately or together?
Well, if you do it just as an action item to get this started, we're gonna bring you back an individual resolution, house by house,
Okay.
after we have abstract company search and after we have it ready to go to district court. Each of these will be a new lawsuit in district court, and we'll need a resolution from you to
I'll make a
authorize
second
going
for the
there.
motion to do the 6.
Okay, so now there's a motion and a second by Flournoy. More discussion and questions. We've clarified one thing.
The owner would like to speak.
Yeah, hang on, that's fine. I want to just make sure that we don't have more questions at this point. Did you have one, Tom?
No.
Okay.
Weston, were you trying to get something in there?
The owner's
Okay.
here and would
Okay.
like to speak, so I
Okay,
want to.
so I understand your name is Mary Welch, is that correct? And you want to come to the microphone?
Now, she is the owner of 5759 North Court.
Right.
That is not part of the first motion.
Correct.
Okay,
These are the other 6 items.
right.
And are some of those Ms. Welch's properties? How many of
Okay.
these properties are hers?
303 South 6th, both the Burlington houses are both hers also.
Okay, so 3 of the 6. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. I was invited by the building inspector here just this Thursday to speak to you about these properties. I was not aware of what was just said, that there's going to be a motion for a 657. I believe my understanding of that is that that is now a motion for the city to take the properties. I just heard it a couple of minutes ago. But what I was intending to say is that there's really only one worthy thing to say right now, and that is I've been a landlord in the city for 30 years, and this is the first time I'm being made to face the committee like this to talk about my properties. The blanket statement I would like to say is that I was caught blindsided by this statement tonight to you by the building inspector. The status, other than 5759 North Court, the status of the other properties is that I have a list of repairs to be completed for 303 North 6, 306 East Burlington. Those 2 properties, I have a list of repairs for them. For 306 East Burlington, there are 26 items, and I believe I have completed the 26 items. I'm simply buttoning up some other items that is not on the list of the inspector, and I intend to call for final inspection shortly. So I believe that 306 East Burlington is certainly not in a condition that would be categorized into a property that should be taken by the city for non-compliance of building codes, because I have finished the 26 repairs. I have just installed a new roof. The inspector is aware of this. So that's that address, 306 East Burlington, 26 items. I was made to do. They are done. Next property is 303 North 6. 303 North 6 was occupied by a renter last year. And when the city inspector came on the scene, he went in and ordered the tenant to vacate, and there's a list of repairs to be done, which I intend to do. If I will be given just the proper time to complete the repairs. These are routine repairs, and I've been going through annual inspections for 30 years, and the list of repairs for 303 North 6 is very typical. It's a very typical list that I would normally do on a yearly basis for the annual inspections. So if I would just be given the proper amount of time for 303 North 6, I intend to complete that as well. 204 East Hempstead is, the inspector showed a very unappealing, a very negative picture on the screen of a tall grass. It is not in that condition. That is a one-time snapshot of the property. The exterior is mowed. The property was not vacant up until a month ago. There was a tenant at 204 East Hempstead, the property that had a fire. There's been a tenant there for 20 years up until a month ago. So it is not entirely, it's not accurate to say that it's vacant. And in fact, the city inspector and I spoke about the property just a few days ago, and we agreed that he would come in to 204 East Hempstead and inspect it, do a proper inspection, because that hasn't been done. And then there will obviously be a list of repairs for me to do, which, again, I intend to do. So I think that the talk of putting these properties in 657 categories, premature and improper, given what I just said about these 3 particular addresses. 302 East Burlington is the red brick building that has sat vacant. Yes, that's sat vacant for the longest time. The origin of that problem is that a tenant of ours bought the property on contract many years ago and was eager beaver to remodel the property and tore down, just demolished interior walls, and then did not have the means to reconstruct the interior. And then at some point during that saga, there was a fire also caused by the tenant. And my husband and I, when my husband has passed away, but when he was alive, the previous inspector, Scott Vaughn, inspected 302 East Burlington several times after the fire. And we did electrical work, and Alliant Energy had the electricity on at that property for 12 years after the fire, until a couple of years ago when I called Alliant Energy and requested for the electric to be shut off because it was vacant. So the electricity was repaired after the fire. It is not true that it has just sat there without any functioning systems. The electrical system was fixed after the fire, and Alliant Energy records will show that the electricity was on at that property up until 2 years ago when it was disconnected by my
When was
my
the fire?
request.
Sorry, when was the fire?
If I will recall, maybe 2008, 2009, something like that.
So it's been empty since then?
It has been empty since then.
Nobody living there?
No one living there. We have used it as a
So
facility for
2008, that was 15 years ago, if I'm doing my math right. So
Yes,
what is the
yes.
reason it's never been fixed in 15 years?
This is probably not relevant, but the answer is, this is the answer. At some point during the 15 years since that fire, my husband got sick, and all of my attention went into his health care, which went on for 3 years, and then until he passed away. And this crisis is a big reason for why these properties are in this condition right now, this situation right now, a personal crisis of mine. But
That's unfortunate. When did your husband pass?
he passed away in 2019.
19, I see.
Mark Welch. Now, but before, right after the fire, we put in a lot of resources into this building, although it doesn't look like it from the outside. We rebuilt the electrical system, we rebuilt the plumbing system, and the heating system. And then hired a carpenter to reinforce all of the structural members in the first floor and the second floor, and actually modified the layout of the property from a 4-unit apartment building to a single-family layout. We were thinking of converting it into a single family as an investment property and selling it. So there was work done towards that agenda. But when my husband's health began deteriorating, then yes, we stopped work on the property, and it has sat vacant through all this time. And given the seriousness of the condition of that property now, it's not something that I can easily say, here, I will fix on the quick. So there is a court date actually set for February, where I will make a decision on the disposition of the property and possibly just hand over the title to the city so that the city could do with the property as it deems best and acquire the land, possibly for the city to do it. So that's 302 East Burlington. I have discussed the 4 properties on that list of 6 that he is suggesting 657 on. Now for 57 and 59, 57, 59 North Court, this is the old Penny Lane, the Penny Lane building on the northeast corner of the square, where Noodle House was and Radio Shack and US Cellular once were. And I am completely taken aback by the fact that it is being mentioned here tonight, because I thought that I had just done what the city wanted me to do, which is to install a roof on the property that cost me $100,000. And after that, there's full intention to go and begin repairs on the interior. But a 4-month period of time, I must say, is an impossibility. 4 months is not going to be possible. It might just as well be, just that would be an action that is going to be a complete fail for me to do. I will not be able to resurrect the building. It's a huge building. It's actually 2 buildings combined into one property. It's 2 separate tax parcels. They're just 2 buildings side by side. And the scope of the work that will need to be done in order to bring it to code compliance is not within the realm of possibility, even if I had millions of dollars, which I do not.
Ms. Wells, why is there so much work that needs to be done to bring it into compliance?
Well, the leaking roof caused damage in the interior. We have to bring the insulation, the entire second floor of the building. It's 8,000 square feet. So then all the ceilings on the second floor will have to be gutted so that I could install fresh insulation to bring the building to state code of R48, which I believe is high. I've spoken with many roofers in Iowa, and when I tell them we have to put in R48 insulation, they have never heard of it. These are professional roofing companies. They don't even know that the state code for insulation in a commercial building is R48. So I installed a roof with R30 insulation. So the roof that's there now has R30, and I have to add another R18 of insulation value to the all the ceilings on the second floor. And this is a huge building. It's a huge
You acknowledge that
undertaking.
you were received, I believe, I'm looking at a notice we were out of compliance that was sent to you on November 15th of 2022. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So that's over a year ago, isn't it?
Yes, that amount of that time has been taken up by the challenge of putting on that roof, because all the other properties were shut down by the city inspector. And I have mortgages on all of them. All of a sudden, I had no income, including at the Penny Lane building itself. And so I had to take several months to go raise the money myself to put on the roof without the benefit of a bank loan. No bank would loan me money against a collateral that has no income. So I have raised that money. It's $100,000, and if you would give me just the proper amount of time, there are 2 ways of looking at the 5759 North Court situation. One is that I do it alone with my resources. I will just need more time than 4 months, because I will rehabilitate the building. Is something that I have operated. I have operated the building since I acquired it in 1998. So
There are no tenants in the building now, are there?
they have all been ordered. It's vacant, including the Noodle House. The Noodle House vacated because they wanted to stay very much, but their furnace was damaged in the basement when the city water main flooded the basement. The furnace conked out. I have to install a new replacement furnace, which I was amenable to, but I guess they were not confident that I would actually do it because of all the financial injury that I have already been suffering in the building. So they moved voluntarily. I guess my petition to you right now is, if I were going to do the building alone, please just give me more time, because 4 months is impossible. 4 months is not doable, especially given given the winter
So-
weather.
The motion on the table right now is, have the repair works completed, or we will initiate 657A in 4 months, right?
Actually, that motion is not yet on the table, right? We're dealing
We're
with
just
the
dealing
other
with the
6
six
properties.
Just review repeat the first motion.
First motion is to refer to city staff, to our city staff, to proceed with 657A actions against the 6 listed properties, all except 57 to 59 North Court Street. That's a separate motion. And that separate motion, when I do make it, we're going to ask, or give the property owner
Well-
4 months.
So the other 6 are immediate.
Yes.
And how long does 657A proceedings take?
18 months, 2 years if they're contested.
Okay, because
Maybe
in
6
the
months
article
if
that,
they're not.
the article that Chuck Espy gave us in St. Petersburg, they said they could do it as quickly as 6 months, but it might take 2 years. We can back out of that at any moment that we wish, right?
Right, or we can come to some kind of a settled agreement.
So if we
if there's
approve the
gonna be
motion
a
tonight
takeover.
and you proceed with your
That
repair
happens.
work, if you get the repair work up to, or building the buildings up to acceptable position, then
That-
we can always stop our 657A
I
action
was
whenever
not
we
aware.
wish.
Now
So
that I've heard of the timeline.
there's no vote, there's no reason not to vote in favor of this motion,
Thank you.
because we can rescind it at any moment.
The 3 properties that are in that 6, it's just a psychological, it's a psychological thing. I really do not believe that they are fit or that they are fairly suited to be categorized as an 657 kind of property. For example, 306 is Burlington. There are 26 items to be repaired. I have done them.
Excuse me, Ms. Boss, excuse me just 1 second. But I think you're right, Doug, in that a 657A action is a slow-moving process. It gives a chance for the property owner to
Right.
rehabilitate the property. But what we're doing is essentially putting the property owner on notice.
That's right.
If they do not rehabilitate their property within a fixed period of time, which is quite long, I do believe, then yeah, the city will take steps to take control of the property. But I think we're giving you as a property owner, given the record, and we can go through each property if you wish, Mr. Welch.
Yes.
And I can talk about the notices that were sent to you last year, or 10 years ago, or 2 years ago, about each property. We can go through the pictures again. But what we're trying to do is move this process along. And I think this is a fair thing for the city to begin with the 657A actions, and if you want to save the properties, keep them, you have a fair chance over time to rehabilitate them. I don't know that it makes sense to give you more time when it seems to me, if you look at the record that we could certainly share with you in some detail, you've had quite a bit of time.
What I would suggest instead is to go over each address and be more specific about
We did that. We
conditions.
did that in the property committee. The property committee held a public meeting on December 11th. We went through each and every property that we're speaking of to this evening in some detail
Yeah.
with Mr. McKee, with the city attorney, and any member of the public who chose to attend. So what we're making as a recommendation to the council, after our considered review of each property, is that the city be allowed to move forward, that we recommend to the city they move forward with 657A actions. And as one of our council members said, it's not taking the property from you today or tomorrow. It's giving you time to rehabilitate the property, but in the meantime, we're going to take steps to make sure you as a property owner, if you want to keep the property, rehabilitate it, make it safe for our community, make it
Well-
presentable for our community.
Okay, I
I'd like to
understand.
call the question, the motion on the floor.
You want to put the fire under my feet.
Yeah,
I
so Ms.
understand.
Welch, we understand what your position is, and I think you've had ample time to, the council to listen to you, and so we have had a council member to call the question, and I think we will take the vote at this time. So we do have a motion on the floor to take these 6 properties to 657A, and it's very clear that that can be remedied if you so choose. So at this time, go ahead and call the roll. Oh, I don't have a second?
Well,
No.
I had.
We had Gandy
in
first and Flournoy
Flournoy.
second. So go ahead.
Gandy,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes?
Toohill,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
My second motion is that I'm asking the council, our property committee is recommending to the council that the city proceed with setting a 4-month timeline for the property owner of 5759 North Court Street, which you have this evening, Ms. Welch, to bring the property substantially in compliance with the city's property maintenance code, or face a 657A action.
Okay, is there a second? A second by Flournoy? Further discussion?
Weston, I just have one question on 57 to 59 North Court. Based on the files that you have, when did we start issuing letters on this property?
Last December.
December of
When we-
22?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that when most of the tenants were vacated?
That's when the tenants were vacated. We were alerted to the fact that it hadn't passed a state fire marshal inspection, state electrical inspection, and that the roof had been leaking for quite some time and had quite a bit of mold and water damage. During this time, I want to point out that we found out through Ms. Welch's own admission that that roof has been leaking for at least 10 years.
No, I never admit that. That's not true.
It's
Please,
in the
don't.
minutes. It's in the minutes for the BOA meeting that she attended.
It isn't true, Ms.
That-
Council
what she
members.
told
The
BOA.
roof has not been leaking for 10 years.
But we started
Not at
communication
all.
on the building December of 2022.
Well, actually.
Or does it go further back?
I think the letter I received, reviewed in our file, at the property committee meeting was dated November 15th, 2022. This is addressed to Ms. Mary Welch.
And how many years prior was the fire marshal situation? Several, correct?
I believe several.
Two years.
Say it
2
was
years.
when
The
Scott was
pandemic
here.
interrupted.
Right.
It was 2 years.
Right. And
there's
so,
a-
again,
there's-
there were many years that nothing has been properly cared for, it appears to
But
me.
I must
So-
vehemently
That's what's in
object
the
to the
question.
10-year leaking situation because that is not true. How could I have tenants there for 10 years
that's
with
really-
10 years leaking?
I'd like to ask Weston a question.
Yeah.
Given the current environment, I know how hard it can be to get repair crews in quickly. Is 4 months a reasonable length of time to do the repairs that are expected?
I don't believe that the repairs can be done in 4 months, but again, we've been dealing with this for over a year, just trying to get a roof on. There's always an excuse, always a reason, always why we can't get a crew, we can't get money, we can't move forward. And I believe when we got the roof put on is when we started issuing fines. So Mary had a penalty set in place that increased every week and was weekly until she got the roof installed.
Okay, so my follow-up then to John is, if we initiate this today, we can stop the action at any moment if we feel that the progress on the building repairs has been adequate.
You can,
I think
or you
it-
can extend the
Your 4
time.
months.
Right.
We extended her the time a year ago.
Okay.
She was gonna get the roof contracted for in the spring. We were still discussing contracting in June, and the idea was it would get put on in the summer. The roof actually happened later than that, but at least it
But
happened.
my point here is that
It was
this is not.
extended 2 or 3 times.
My point here is that this is not a certain motion. There's some flexibility going down the road on the side of the council and the building owner.
The phrase is
So-
substantially in compliance.
Right.
Right? That's the phrase that we're
And we can
we're
always
offering.
extend the 4 months, or once again, even if it does move to 657, if there's progress, that action can be stopped at a
right.
mo. Okay.
So,
Piece of history, the property was red tagged about Christmas time last year.
Red tag means?
All the tenants were told it was unsafe for habitation. Everybody moved out except Noodle House. At that point, I think there was one tenant on the first floor that stayed an extra month. Mark, I can't think of his last name.
Cool.
Okay. After that, the springtime was supposed to be roof contract time. There also was hanging with the roof, which everybody agreed had to be done first, to stop the bleeding, so to speak. After we agreed the roof was gonna get done, then we went through 2 or 3 extensions to really get a contractor involved. And to the owner's credit, she had a consultant who has an engineering background working on 2 different schemes for a roof. One of them was to build a gable roof that went to Board of Adjustment. The other one was to do the flat roof, even though it might be more expensive. Board of Adjustment didn't go with the gable. At that point, they put on the flat roof. In the meantime, the other thing that was hanging was a list of, it started out with about a dozen, it went to 14, and then it went to 16 points that had to be met to allow people to come back in and rent inside that building. And that list is still out there, and it includes things like remediating mold, replacing water damaged walls, the insulation problem, the electrical problems, having it pass a state inspection electrically, fire safety, and a regular structural inspection. Those are all parts of that list of 16 now. And that list of 16 just was discussed within the last 10 days with Ms. Welch up in a review hearing in court. So,
and I will say, being in there, going through the building to get out on the roof, the building has deteriorated quite a bit in the year that we've been doing this. Without the tenants there, I don't know if it wasn't a priority to patch the roof that had fallen down and stuff. So there's considerable water damage to all the roofs, which she said has to come out. To that point also, I tried to get Ms. Welch to put the correct insulation on during the install of the roof. She knew what was there, knew what was code, chose to wait and put the insulation on the inside of the building afterwards, so that meant ripping all the ceilings down to install that insulation. And I have the contract that shows between her and her roofer that she understood that was going to have to happen afterwards. Along with the water damage, now there's damage to all the floors in those apartments, and just, I mean, and a tremendous amount of water damage in at least 2 or 3 of the apartments that are there. The front apartments weren't in great shape, but they were at least probably usable. You know, once we get all the other electrical and stuff like that fixed, but there's at least 2 or 3 apartments that were just completely ruined by the water.
Okay, so any other questions, council? No, let's call the roll.
May I just take one more minute? For 57 and 59 North Court, the committee may not be aware that there is a potential picture game changer for the eventual fate of the building. And that is that a group of investors in town, headed by Chris Johnson, has been speaking with me for the past 2 years about the possibility of acquiring the building and converting it into a boutique hotel. And the negotiations and the talks going on about this right now are sort of accelerating and going to a more serious tone. And my thinking on this is that Chris Johnson would like to acquire the building at for the least amount of resource in order to invest maybe 1 or 1.5 million into the structure to make it a gem, a real estate gem for the town. He's thinking of it as a potential, the best boutique hotel on the square. Could be a tourist attraction. That level of vision, and we are in talks right now. This week he's going to meet with me, and I am trying to fashion an acquisition plan for his group, for his investor group, that will be, a very sweet way of acquiring the building at what I call a zero acquisition cost. I am trying to structure a situation where, because he has indicated that that is what he would like to do, and I am sort of coming up with a plan that will make that happen. But his concern is the court proceedings. His concern is the city's eyes on the project and this process going on. In fact, if I simply handed the building to him,
I think it's still not gonna change anything, John, right? If they come up with something in the next couple weeks,
understand.
we're
If
fine.
you have some kind of workout, we'll just step back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
So-
go ahead and call to question the motion on the floor.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Go ahead and call the roll.
Gandy,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes?
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is that all for property committee?
Yes, that's all. That's all probably. Thank you.
No good things happens after 9 o'clock. Public safety and transportation.
Oh yeah, we met tonight. Public safety and transportation met at 6 p.m. tonight. We did have all three members of the committee present along with Doug and Melanie. And we were discussing Burlington. And it's funny because we thought we had addressed this earlier in the year and comes to find out we didn't. So Burlington Avenue is in need of some striping. I don't think it's a secret that, when it's raining, when it's nighttime, the stripes are extremely hard to see. And the reason this even came up is there's also a desire to make Burlington better, like bike lanes, sidewalks, how can we make the overall street better? But considering what would need to go into changes like that, the cost, the time, the partnerships that we would have to build to make that happen, as well as knowing that we had the deficit that we did last year in the budget. The recommendation by committee is to go ahead and move forward with restriping Burlington, and then encouraging council to continue talking with the parties necessary to look at a further down the road plan to make Burlington more user-friendly for multimodal purposes. So I would like to make a motion to proceed with striping Burlington in spring of 2024 with an approximate cost of, Melanie's gone, but I'm pretty sure it was $60,000. So to be done by Joe and
And
team.
just redoing what we currently have.
Correct. No grinding, no changing lanes, just restriping what's there. But from a committee perspective, I encourage you guys to continue to think down the road because any way we can make that road more friendly would be awesome. So,
Second it.
Thank you. Any further questions? Now please call the roll.
Anderson,
yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Okay, administrator department reports. I guess since Mel's gone, you want to do yours? Or she's not back there.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. So we'll just talk about my stuff. So Highway 1 is open to two-lane traffic. We talked about, I don't remember when the last time we talked about that, but we talk about it often. Highway 1 is still a construction site. They still are going to continue work throughout the winter when it's above freezing. They'll still be pouring concrete and what have you. So, and then once they get to a point where they actually have to shut all the work completely down, it will continue to be two-way until April 1. And then they will be shutting off that intersection.
Fillmore.
Fillmore, sorry, thank you. So they'll be shutting down Fillmore for safety and for speed. So we'll have to make new detours, but it's really important that we understand that even now that it's two-way, it still is a construction site, and there will be people out there and the cones and all sorts of things. Again, we've talked about Alliant Energy. We have spent a lot of time speaking about not only the franchise fees, but the solar arrays and some other projects they have coming. And those conversations are continuing. They're great partners. that we've also been talking about grants, energy grants, and we're talking about electric vehicle grants that we might be able to get through them, and adding hopefully some more electric charging stations throughout the city. Again, we've talked about the 657A houses, and once again, we continue to work. Hopefully, we're going to have a deeper, in-depth conversation in regards to our budget process, and we're having those conversations and trying to get those things. I'm a little bit excited, even though I think I'm still ahead of the curve of our budget season and when we're starting to have those discussions. But that is what we're doing, and I'll hold the floor for
I have a question.
Ms. Melanie. Yes, sir.
So the public hearing is for Interstate Power and Light, but you mentioned Alliant Energy. I'm a little confused as to who's putting up the ground-based solar array.
They're in partnership with one another. I don't know what subsidiary of that is.
They're working together.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Mel, your report?
I don't have a lot other to say other than I'm so glad Highway 1 is open. And
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, if you see me piled under paperwork, it's not just the capital improvements plan. I'm now working on sorting through the 5 different funding sources, 5 different DOT funding sources alone for Highway 1, and trying to get that all of that reimbursement. So I had like spreadsheets and charts and everything last week. So but anyway, we're getting there, and yeah, lots of energy on that on the last month, and over the last month, and then we'll switch gears to Crow Creek Bridge here soon.
Great.
So unless there's any questions, those are the big ones right now.
Okay.
You'll be restriping Burlington in the spring, by the way. That
Okay.
happened when you were out of the room.
That happened when I was out of the room. Yes, we'll get that done with the maintenance dollars. Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a fire station update, anything?
So Klingner stopped by during one of our committee meetings that we had during the day, and I missed them. They are working. So after council action, they're working to get those 60% drawings to the 100%. It will take them a couple months to do that, so we aren't ready to set a public hearing on that at this time. They did also provide the alternates or some options for the combining the towers. Because I know how much Katie loves public safety meetings, I decided just to bring up the striping for the public safety, and that we'll have the next council discuss anything related to the proposed tower.
Got it.
Alrighty. May the force be with you.
We're gonna need it. Alrighty, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Toohill, second by Flournoy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. And if everyone will sit still and have Terry Kness and Judy Ham, Tom Toohill, and Elizabeth Esty to the center. We're gonna swear in.
Or swear at.
Things they've done this year.
Still gonna run.
It's good use of resources.
Terry, Judy,
6 colors.
Elizabeth, Tom.
He's right behind you.
Oh, there he is.
Good together.
You want to stand up there? Okay, right there, just, look into the camera. So, all right, we want everybody to see you. The camera is still rolling, so, yeah, raise your right hand. And you're just gonna state I and then your name. So I. Okay. Do solemnly swear. That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
I will support the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of Iowa.
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
And that I will faithfully and impartially.
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
To the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability,
Discharge all the duties of council member.
discharge all the duties of a council member
In the city of Fairfield.
in the city of Fairfield,
as now or hereafter required by law.
As now or hereafter required by law.
Great. Congratulations. And I promised her it's never this late.
Except when they do.
Except when they do run this late.
Exactly. Yeah, except for when they do. Okay. And if we can have our city attorney, John Morrissey, come up. We'll do him. And I don't know what happened to Dave tonight. Do we know?
He's sick.
Oh, he's sick. Okay. So we'll do him in January, I guess. Okay, Mr. Morrissey, raise your right hand.
Signed up for number 4.
I, John Morrissey,
I, John Morrissey,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all duties of city attorney
discharge all duties of city attorney
in the city of Fairfield,
in the city of Fairfield,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. So if I could have each one of you come up and put your John Henry on here, and thanks everybody for all your patience tonight. A long meeting.